Right, so in today's world, great buildings are designed with collaboration, innovation, and listening. So welcome to Graphisoft's ecosystem, where customer feedback and new technologies and sister brand collaboration shape the future of design. So I got some colleagues here with me, and they have all different industrial backgrounds, they have different experiences at Graphisoft. And so, Tibor, I'd like to start with you, because you've been in the industry and at Graphisoft the longest, and you've seen how the architectural workflows have evolved over the years. So can you tell us a little bit how these affected your approach, especially in the early design stage?
Absolutely, Pelin. So, as you said, the AEC industry is in a transformation in recent years, and for me, at least, the most relevant change and the most important change is in the early design phase. It's getting very, very complex, and just two examples of that. There are way more stakeholders want to access the digital data. That's one aspect. And the other one is the importance of sustainable design, right? So what does that mean for us architects? There are many architects here on stage, but also in the audience, right? I think one important thing is that we need a versatile and collaborative solution, digital solution. And the good news is that for us, ArchiCAD users, we already have access to such a platform for many years, and we are using that platform for early design. And for that, it's always good to look back what we have. And so I would like to talk about one of my favorite tools, which is the Morph tool, and all these easy-to-use, versatile push-pull operation with which you can create early conceptual modeling. And of course, you can apply all sort of shadows, and you can turn these nice models into great visualization and sell your design much faster. For example, there's this 3D style with which you can create the white models. And of course, at the end of the day, what is needed by the investors and by the builders, of course, schedules, early schedules, volumes, floor areas, and so on. And these are also available just one click. So I think ArchiCAD already has some great basis for conceptual
But
modeling.
you did also support the strong connection to the other platforms, right?
Absolutely, and this is also another important learning for us at Graphisoft, that even the biggest vendors like Nemetschek or Graphisoft, we have to work together with third-party solution providers and also other major industry players, because this end-to-end life cycle of projects is so complex, and there's so many contributors that alone we are not able to cover it. None of the big vendors can cover that. So, for example, there was this Rhino Grasshopper connection. It was a real game changer. Parametric design just changed how we think about working with design alternatives, finding the best solution. And a very important aspect of that is that it changed architecture. Just take a look at these buildings. These are totally different than what we used to have like 50 years ago. So I think that was an important one. But we also have internal solutions. One of the most popular updates to ArchiCAD in recent years was the design options, right? I'm pretty sure you agree with that. So with the design options integrated in ArchiCAD without any workarounds, you can showcase different design alternatives to your clients and get to the approval phase much faster.
Yeah, and Tibor, since you already mentioned design platforms and sustainability as a priority, so let me extend a bit on that. And as we can clearly all see it and experience it today, there is real momentum in early stage design. And by making data accessible and actionable, architects can now make faster and better decisions. So recognizing this, and Marton and János have already talked about this yesterday, Graphisoft is introducing Project Aurora, which is our next generation cloud-native platform for swift decision-making to create better performing buildings. Now, we can structure our goals with Aurora into two phases. And in phase one, our goal is to have a robust support for early stage design and prototyping, where users can run feasibility analysis and simulations quickly, so they have that instant insight into building performance. For example, while you are mass modeling in the conceptual stage, embodied carbon analysis can be evaluated in real time, putting fast decision-making at hand. So you can go from a very, very basic couple parameter setup to a highly detailed one in the end. And this means that specialists are not eliminated from this workflow, just introduced at the right time. What I also like to share is you can also do compliance checks with a visual feedback and a warning system. So, for example, again, you can have real-time guidance on how your project performs from several different aspects, like legal and zoning regulations, and building coverage ratio, and floor area ratio, and green area, and many, many more. And also for the future, we are considering an even more productive approach to this, to introduce an active system based on the many rules that you have already set up, and automatically suggest you unit arrangement recommendations. And finally, you are doing all of this in a real-world context, using live resources such as maps, terrain and elevation data, geographic and weather information. So location-based life cycle analysis and sun studies are also in your toolbox. Now, in the second phase, we want to take everything that I've just talked about a step even further into the detailed design workflows and the connectivity with ArchiCAD. Now, in this phase, Aurora is not the redundancy of ArchiCAD, but it rather augments and extends its capabilities. So once again, just to give you an example, imagine that you have a classroom and a bathroom hotlink module designed and set up in ArchiCAD. And you could use this in a design project of a school building as available units in Aurora and do unit arrangement testings. And once again, at the end of the day, why not make this also into an AI-driven flow? So you can focus on the real value and the real potential of early stage design, like overspending and carbon emissions and building performance. And once again, just to reiterate, so we have always prioritized sustainability, even in the past. And we have already implemented various solutions for the different stages of the design process. We have the energy evaluation tool, incorporating material data and thermal bridges and solar analysis and many more. And we also have add-ons or third-party collaborations for life cycle assessment, like the Design LCA or One-Click LCA, even further facilitating that informed decision-making. So all in all, what I'm trying to emphasize is that we don't just promise and talk about having an impact. We quantify this, and we make this our metric.
Well, as someone who studies sustainability in my master's degree, I'm really glad that it's gaining traction. I think it's a great time to talk another technology leap, and that's AI. So yesterday it was mentioned that the customer-centric AI is the core principle of our strategy, and I completely agree with that. So our AI journey has started with AI Visualizer, and it was perfect for conceptual images, early design stage feedback, and decisions on the design iterations, again, early in the stage. And it was hosted on cloud, so you didn't need any IT or hardware requirements. As we continue our development in the AI field, we've also revamped AI Visualizer. So let's call this AI Visualizer 2. So it works with clear prompts. A positive prompt means it's the images, it's the things that you want to see in your image. A negative prompt means it's the things that you don't want to see. So you set your composition as a baseline, you choose your style that you'd like to go with, and you give AI Visualizer a freedom of creativity, let's say. And then you generate your image. So once the image is generated, on the preview picture, there's a slider, so you can compare and contrast the before and after images. And there is also a paintbrush, so in case you didn't like something on your image that you'd like to get rid of, or you'd like to add something on top after the image is created, you can use the paintbrush tool. You simply regenerate your image, you resave it, and that's all done. Now, this brings me to something that I'm truly, truly excited about, our development this year, AI Assistant. This is a big milestone for us, so don't think of it as a tool, just think of it as your smart design partner. And it will help you, it will help architects and engineers with the repetitive tasks so that you can focus more on the creative side of your designs. It will also be at the heart of our design intelligence strategy. So it will focus on 3 areas at the moment. So it will be product knowledge, domain knowledge, and BIM model query. You simply ask in plain language, for example, select all the elements that doesn't have any classifications assigned to them, and it will work its magic. So what I also truly find reassuring is the results will come from the trusted Graphisoft resources. So these could be product guidelines, support articles, Learn portal articles, etc., so that you know that they're all accurate and they're up to date. So you don't need to memorize any commands, you don't need to go through any guidelines and regulations, you simply let AI Assistant do the job for you. Of course, we take privacy and security really seriously as well. So AI Assistant was built in-house, and it also aligns with the Nemetschek's data privacy standards. So we will never use it for training purposes. It will be confidential. For the minute, it's in beta version, and it's included already in ArchiCAD, DDS-CAD, and MEP Designer. The full release is coming in early 2026. And it will be spread wide across the other Graphisoft products as well. So again, my message for you is just leave the repetitive, mundane tasks to AI Assistant and just work on the creative side of your design.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because freeing up users to focus on creative design process is exactly the point. And speaking as a product designer, my role is to take care of those everyday details that can shape how you experience the software. For example, take a look at the very beginning of an ArchiCAD journey. We introduced our dynamic tooltips last year to help with the learning curve. And these tooltips have step-by-step instructions, easy-to-follow guides, and they have a nice visual appearance. And you can also find some additional contextual tips and tricks, which can be super useful. And on the interface side, we had introduced dark mode in ArchiCAD for our Mac users for a bit of a fresh appearance, let's say. By the way, it was a highly anticipated feature. And this year, dark mode enhancements are more visually restful, meaning the entire interface, including the icons and the color schemes, are more cohesive. And honestly, I think it looks awesome. I also use ArchiCAD in dark mode on my Mac. But anyway, so this is part of a wider UI update, which also involves resizing various dialogues. It might sound as a small adjustment, but it can really reduce friction in your everyday workflow. And the relevant dialogues are new layouts, subsets, and master layouts, classification systems, and edit element by stories. Another usability update is filtering unused views, which can really declutter a busy workspace. So maybe you have seen some busy or unorganized project workspaces. Well, it's an improvement in that topic. So with the new view index criteria and fields, you can list unused project views and save time on manual checking. And saving time is good. So related to this, expanding and collapsing all project folders in the Navigator is one click. And the same goes for Organizer and Keynotes. This means that you don't get lost in an endless tree structure. You know, no more endless scrolling and these kind of things. And all of these are practical improvements, which, by the way, are coming from user feedback. So thank you. And I think they really add up.
And I love the customer-centric approach that we're taking. So speaking of customers, Yasmin, I'm looking at you. So you always had a strong ear to the ground with the customers. So can you tell us a little bit how the customer feedback affected our product developments this year?
Yes, of course. So yes, even before I joined Graphisoft, I was a customer myself, and now being on the inside, behind the scenes, seeing everything firsthand on how we take on our customer feedback and how this shapes not only the product, but down to the features themselves, it's really great to see how it works. And this customer-centric approach on it ends up shaping the features, and we even have some existing features, such as, for example, here we have automatic dimensions, labels, schedules, keynotes, which were all based on customer feedback. So it's really great to see. And just from how these features are important to the whole workflow and how they impact the user experience, is really great to see that it's really shaping the product and making it more like what you would like to see. And since I mentioned some of these features, I mentioned schedules, and I would like to dive a little deeper on this topic, because schedules have been a highlight for the past few ArchiCAD versions now, and this year was no different, so we have new improvements related to schedules, and more specifically here, we're talking about customization. So we want to give you the freedom to achieve that output that you're going after so that you can have your branding all over your project. So now you have more customization related to background to cells. You can fine-tune totals, grand totals, add prefixes, suffixes. So keeping true to the output that you're trying to achieve with this tool. And all these improvements that I mentioned just now, they are not only exclusive to schedules, so we're going to see them replicated across different documentation tools. So we're also talking about here project indexes, and Keynote legends also follow the same customization purpose. And since I just mentioned keynotes, you might be familiar with keynotes. You might remember them from last year as our key feature from last year. We also have improvements related to keynotes, most specifically here, talking about the keynote legend itself. So now you can improve the visibility of your keynote data in the legend. You can set different formatting options for different keynote data so that it becomes very visually distinguishable which data you're talking about at each moment. And also some customization to background, just as I said, similar to schedules. And then you can get that fine-tuned look for your projects. And still sticking with all these documentation improvements that I mentioned, we now have an improvement related to how markers relate to renovation filters. And when I say markers here, I mean sections, elevations, interior elevations, but also detail and worksheet markers. And how it works now is that you can select your markers and assign a specific renovation status to them. And this way you can apply on top of that the renovation filter so that it overrides the marker itself. And this is answering that old call for clearer staging for phase projects. And it helps, again, keep all the drawings organized, accurate from throughout all your project phases. Yes, I'm very happy about this one too. And now this whole focus on these improvements is related to usability and productivity. So it's really, really good to see that it's spanning over different features on the product.
So Yasmin already mentioned productivity. So we do also have some new improvements on the productivity side. So the keyword is productivity. So from now on, you can input any types of openings onto your sections and elevations directly with any alignment method or any geometry method as well. So even when you're on the section and elevation itself and your element is not really parallel to the marker, doesn't matter, the input, the geometry will be accurate. Another one is rotating elements. I think such an easy task and commonly used task shouldn't take too many clicks. So from now on, with a customizable shortcut, you can quickly rotate a selection of elements, clockwise, counterclockwise, in the increments of 90 degrees. So productivity is also applied to documentation, so not just only modeling. Another improvement to a repetitive task, for example, is when you're dealing with external documents, specifically multi-page PDFs. So if you'd like to relink another page of the same document, you can just do it with one click. Again, you don't need to keep finding the same document, keep relinking in, and losing time throughout the process. Yay! OK, so continue with the documentation improvements. For line-based tools, such as lines, splines, polylines, circles, arcs, you can now have 2 arrowheads. So one at the start, one at the end. These could be different. So for example, you can have a circle at the start, an arrow at the end. You can even choose the none option if you don't want anything. And the nice thing is each of these arrows will have their own pen settings and size settings as well. Yay!
And again, it's really great to see all these quality of life improvements applied to the whole workflow. But when we're talking about the workflow here, we don't just focus on the architects themselves. There's a whole interdisciplinary team behind the scenes also helping out in the process. And we also, I personally would also like to talk about how interior designers fit into all of this. And I know for a fact that there are interior designers today watching, so yeah, this one is for you guys. Not only some existing features, such as library parts and rendering engines, but we also have some improvements related to libraries, so I would just go through some of them. And starting here, just highlighting the power of our native library. So if you probably are familiar with our native out-of-the-box objects, and I just really want to highlight how we can have out-of-the-box parametric objects without needing to rely on external sources. So you can very easily make adjustments. It doesn't distort your objects, and they're ready to go on the project. And I also want to talk about the add-on called Library Part Maker, which I don't think enough people know the true power of this add-on, is where you can model your library parts using native ArchiCAD tools, such as 3D tools, create your library part, and use it in your project. The key here is that they can be scale sensitive, so you can make adjustments depending on the scale you're using to be more detailed, less detailed. So it's truly a great add-on that, again, I think not enough people use it. And on the topic of libraries, last year, we switched our library technology to the new global library technology. And the way this works now is that because we have this global library, users now have access to all different language versions from any ArchiCAD they're using, making it so much easier to work globally and collaboratively with people from different regions where they can collaborate with all these different language type objects. And the best part for us is that this new technology introduces the facility of bringing to you faster and more library updates throughout the year. Since the beginning of this year, we have been rolling out new library updates, and I'll just use update 1 as an example. So in the beginning of the year, we rolled out a library update 1, where you can have a new expanded selection of AI-generated tree graphics. We have improvements to elevator doors, to sliding doors, and there are many more improvements like this to come. So you're going to see on next year also new library updates coming your way. And now, related to ArchiCAD 29 specifically, we have an improvement to a specific set of library objects, which are the kitchen cabinets. There is now more flexibility on how to make adjustments to them. And again, I'm sure interior designers will be very appreciative of this improvement. Now the resizing is smarter. So for example, the fit positioning will adjust accordingly to the resize. There are more 3D hotspots that you can use to manually adjust on the fly how your kitchen cabinet is organized. And there's also more flexibility on how to organize the drawers. So I'm sure it's a win for the interior designers here. And just one more note here is that we also expanded our import options. So now you can import OBJ files into ArchiCAD, and it will, in the background, be converted into a GDL object. So you can bring in your personal library. It will be added to the embedded library, and you can use it on your project. It's ready to go. And now, a personal note from my side, all these features that we're talking about here today, if you are interested in learning them with a bit more, in a bit more detail, I invite you to scan the QR code and have access to the ArchiCAD 29 upgrade training, where we will go through different workflows on how to use these new features. And just a side note here is that this training is free for enrollment until the end of the month. So I would take the chance now to scan the QR code if you are interested. And you might even encounter some extra coupons in there for other trainings.
Yeah, and I hope you scan the QR code, because let me circle back to visualization. So in my experience, teams want to present their work in the style that actually speaks to their client. So style really matters, and ArchiCAD offers an extensive suite of visualization features, including built-in photorealistic rendering with CineRender and Redshift, or AI-powered visualization, or integration with tools like Enscape and BIMAX. BIMAX, by the way, is available on Apple Vision Pro. So you can now experience full immersion in your 3D models, which is pretty wild. So you can interact with 2D and 3D views, navigate in a spatial environment. So, by the way, you can check it in the exhibition area. And while you are checking it, just imagine such a design review with your client. So I think that you can elevate their level of engagement to a pretty new level and make design review more memorable. And on top of that, we brought improvements like 3D resolution sets and physically based rendering contours. So with 3D resolution sets, you can edit the expected print size directly in their view settings based on resolution. Yay! So if you change the print size, pixel size, or resolution, the others will follow automatically. So that means that you will always know the final size and the final output. And to make visuals even more clear, contours are now visible in physically based rendering, giving you a more well-defined look for your projects. This is something, again, that many of our users, so basically you in the audience, have asked for.
Renata, I think you touched a great point, when you're talking about the collaboration with the external rendering software. But I think we need to add other stakeholders to this collaboration. So I think ArchiCAD is a remarkable software. But in a BIM environment, users they should be able to choose the BIM software that they'd like to work on. So of course, in this scenario, it's a complex project, multiple stakeholders are involved. So the coordination and collaboration will be quite challenging.
Yes, Pelin, and I think if we would ask the audience, then everyone would agree that collaboration and coordination in complex projects is the world's easiest thing, right?
It is.
Okay, so jokes aside, in order to make external collaboration work, we need real and actual interoperability. And we have remained committed and an advocate of open collaboration platforms and open standards, because this ensures that architects, engineers, and other stakeholders can efficiently work together across platforms and disciplines, and even regardless of their location or their favorite software that they would use. So as a good example for this would be our newly introduced support for IFC 4.3. Because now you are able to share data with an even broader range of tools and fulfill even more regional mandates in some cases. Then we have also rolled out the ArchiCAD connection to BIM Plus from Allplan, even further deepening interdisciplinary workflows with other brands under the Nemetschek umbrella. Now, this makes cross-platform collaboration workflows much more straightforward in a browser-based solution. So here, participants can coordinate in a common federated model space, namely BIM Plus, where ArchiCAD users now have a direct integration as a solution. And then there is our new sister brand supported Bluebeam connection as well. And this is one of those little things that actually makes a huge difference, because ArchiCAD users can now instantly create Bluebeam Studio sessions, share their drawings and documentations for reviewing almost instantly. So here, Bluebeam provides the browser-based cloud-native platform for reviewing and annotation, and you can invite any participant in the reviewing process who owns a simple Bluebeam ID. And here's the clever bit in this workflow. So all the annotations and markups that you do through the reviewing process then feed right back into ArchiCAD as native issues linked to the proper place for solutioning. So nobody will end up chasing those long emails that everyone will swear that they've never got. And finally, something that we've also been working on, something looking a bit into the future that we're really, really excited about. And luckily, I can be the first to share this information, this great news with you here on Ignite. That, just bear with me for a second. So even though, as I said, that we remain strong advocates for OpenBIM, we really need to make sure that our users can efficiently participate in all relevant ecosystems their project takes them to. So for this, under the Nemetschek and Autodesk interoperability agreement, we are building an ArchiCAD connector to Autodesk's Construction Cloud. Now, this will make collaboration much more efficient for you by synchronizing BIM data across ArchiCAD and ACC in a native format. And allow me to emphasize the native format once again, because this will not be a file-based solution. So as far as I see, this is a major stepping stone for you guys, since this will be addressing major coordination challenges and making it more easily accessible to work in ACC-mandated projects as well. So we also plan to cover all relevant workflows here as well. As a top priority, we are addressing model sharing, documentation, and BIM data sharing from ArchiCAD to Construction Cloud. Of course, considering all relevant aspects like precise geometry transfer, property availability, 2D documentation sharing. But then to extend to the full workflow, we also aim to support referencing back from Construction Cloud to ArchiCAD for reference workflows. And finally, we also want to cover issue management workflows as well, since this is an essential part of coordination. So I'm really convinced that we are breaking down some major barriers through these improvements that I've just talked about.
Yep.
Well done.
I've had my 5 seconds of fame as well.
Yes, I can't agree enough of how much of a huge improvement this will be on collaboration workflows. But I would also like to bring you back now to talk a little bit about BIM Cloud and some of the improvements that we are rolling out related to that. We have now the introduction of public links into BIM Cloud, and what that means is that now you can share with externals any file or folder for BIM Cloud, and the person who's receiving this link doesn't need to have a specific BIM Cloud license, so it can be accessed without dedicated license. Right now, it's an early access phase, so if you are interested in having access to public links in your BIM Cloud, let us know, and we can make that happen for you. And also, a next improvement is related to a multi-core support, specifically for the BIM Cloud Manager. And what this means is that you're going to have improved performance when you're in the BIM Cloud Manager for specific functions. And if you are currently in the process of migrating to BIM Cloud SaaS, we also have a tool that will help you assist you in that migration process. So it will reduce a lot of that manual work that is involved in this. So again, if you're interested to have access, if you're currently in the process of migrating into BIM Cloud SaaS and you would like to have access to this tool, just also let us know. And now, shifting a little bit onto BIMX, we are very proud to announce that we now have major platform unification across BIMX, meaning that pro features such as element hide, layer control, and cut plane customization can now also be accessed on Windows and Mac, and not only on mobile. So a huge step forward in unifying all the features across the platforms. And sticking with BIMX, we now have the support of parallel projections. Before, it was mostly the perspective projection, but now you can also display your model in this parallel projection style, similar to what we have in ArchiCAD with both projection types. This will give you a lot more flexibility onto how to display your projects. And now, just to list a few more, a couple more improvements here are related specifically to the BIMX Mobile and how you can navigate your models in BIMX Mobile. We now have a fine-tuned walk mode, meaning that you can choose, according to your preference, if you're going to use a single-handed joystick or a double-handed joystick, so you can cater to your preferred method. And now BIMX Mobile also supports keyboard, mouse, and gamepad, meaning that when you're giving your client a digital walkthrough of the project, you can now go through your project using these external supports, so keyboard, mouse, and gamepad, as I mentioned. And this one specifically I saw in action just a couple weeks ago, and it looks very clean because all the interface elements disappear when you are doing the digital walkthrough and becomes very focused on the model itself. And then finally, we have also the addition of an animation toggle on BIMX. So if you used it before, if you're familiar with BIMX, you know that when you switch between different views, let's say different favorite views, different gallery views, there is this 3D animation that happens switching between the views. And this is great when showing to clients, but sometimes you want to be a little bit more agile when working in BIMX. So now you can deactivate the animation and just quickly jump between the different views. And at the end of the day, all of these improvements that we're talking about here is related to really improving the whole collaboration and coordination process across all project teams.
Thanks, Yasmin. But let's stay on this track about coordination and collaboration. And word of warning, this will be the longest section in this whole presentation because it's super important. So I would like to share a few information about collaboration with other disciplines. And traditionally, detailed BIM collaboration was the domain for architects and structural engineers, right? But there is an increased need coming, more input coming from MEP engineers as well. And the reason for that is that these MEP layouts and systems in the building are very, very complex, super complex, I would say. And these are the major contributor to building costs. Like 35% of a building budget is now dedicated to MEP systems. So we realized this challenge for increased collaboration, and we are now launching a brand new product, and this is called the MEP Designer. It is a standalone product, and this is the debut event, right? I would like to share a few information about this. So what is MEP Designer really? It is based on the very capable and very powerful AutoCAD MEP, AutoCAD modeling and documentation engine. You're all familiar with this. And the ultimate goal is to make the HVAC design faster, easier, and all based on a BIM platform provided by Graphisoft. And there are many, many things here that I don't want to go into details today, but it's supported by intelligent routing. There is a physically based calculation engine behind it, automatic documentation, and so on. I would like to just focus on the key highlights of this solution. And obviously, like in AutoCAD, our main focus is the best design experience. You have heard this term many times today and yesterday as well. So it's really easy to use. It's supported by smart solutions. Like, for instance, you can place straight fittings into a rod, and it's automatically inheriting the settings of the system, or there are access to way more MEP attributes like insulation, or for example, if you would like to just remove a node from a system, it's just a simple click and you can do that. Or identifying open connection, a super important problem. Now you can do it with the graphic overrides. You architects are also familiar with that solution. And of course, there are dedicated solutions for making the routing faster. For example, this intelligent connection solver, super important when it comes to complex scenarios like angled and slope connections. Talking about slopes, you can see it on the screen. It's an essential element for pipe systems to make the pipes correctly working, so we can edit the slopes of the pipe layout easily on the floor plan. And of course, what about design? And this is totally new in a Graphisoft solution. Now we are supporting the design of MEP system with physically based calculation engines. So with that, very quickly you can set up your system, and then you can refine it with the built-in optimizer solutions. And at the end of the day, you're paid for your documents, right? That's the same in architecture, same in MEP. So you still have to provide very detailed documentation sets. And now those are also integrated into the system. You can list the fittings or the ducts by their size in the interactive schedule. And you could see it on the video, a very important improvement that you can show the layout in a symbolic view as well. That would cover almost everything, but there is one more thing here, and I really want to finish this part in a true Apple fashion, right? So there's one more thing. It runs on a Mac. Just can you imagine an easy-to-use MEP solution running on a shiny MacBook Pro? So just download and try out, and you will be amazed.
And this is great news, TV. But let me jump in once again, since I try to represent the notes of collaboration here. So one of the biggest challenges in the MEP sector is breaking down those silos. And while MEP Designer is a great product with lots of capabilities on its own, it's more than just a modeling tool. It's a comprehensive platform that connects the diverse specialized solutions together. So to highlight how MEP Designer supports engineers through the entire design phase, and to demonstrate how it can work together efficiently with other third-party applications, please enjoy our next demo for an entire workflow.
We will begin with Genesis, which uses AI to quickly generate an initial layout for all the building's MEP systems. MEP engineers often join projects too late, which can lead to major changes and a lot of design work going to waste. Genesis works with AutoCAD to do the hard work up front and helps everyone stick to their plan and budget. A new project starts with just one click. Genesis guides users through a short set of questions and collects all essential details needed by every project participant. With the ArchiCAD add-on, the building is instantly connected to the Genesys platform. Rooms, areas, and other key details are automatically found and set up for use. Genesys adds extra details to the plan, shows a simple summary of all rooms, so it's easy to check them before getting calculations. With the user's permission, data like areas and specific parameters flow into calculations. Results that usually take more than 40 hours are now available in less than one. This means up to 30% cost savings and a drastic reduction of import-export issues. Based on the project setup, Genesys then automatically generates the optimal placements of shafts, objects, and routing, including the first schematic diagram. And the best part, all results are transferred back to ArchiCAD in native format, enabling a continuous, seamless workflow. With Genesys, complex planning is transformed into a clear, intuitive process, requiring less effort, but with maximum efficiency, all in perfect harmony with ArchiCAD. Moving into the design development stage, we'll figure out how much heating our building needs using Equals IDA-ICE software. You can export the building model as an IFC file from ArchiCAD or MEP Designer. When you import an IFC file into IDA-ICE, it brings in spaces, walls, slabs, roofs, windows and doors, along with all materials, constructions, and zone types, all automatically from the IFC file. Then the imported IFC file can be visualized in 2D as well as 3D. All spaces can be automatically converted into zones, which is necessary for the calculation. After the conversion is done, we can hide the original 3D model to focus on the updated version made by IDA-ICE. We now have a thermal model that lets us check the heating needs for all parts of the building. Room units can be sized with a single click of a button. We can choose the weather conditions for the calculation using either typical days or a whole year and decide if we want to include things like sunlight or heat from equipment. Once the software runs the calculation, it will tell us how much heat is needed, how comfortable each room will feel. The results show up in a 3D model using colors to show which rooms need more heating. Finally, we can use these results to help set up the right sizes for all heating equipment in MEP Designer. Next up, we'll size the potable water system in CalHydra by Dendrit. CalHydra works together with MEP Designer to enable detailed pipe system calculations for potable water, wastewater, rainwater, heating, and cooling systems. For now, we will use it for sizing potable water system. After a system is modeled in MEP Designer and displayed within the system browser, it can be exported to CalHydra by classifying MEP elements, categorizing system instances. After the export is done, you get a file you can open in CalHydra and continue working there. CalHydra shows the water system as a simple 3D isometric representation. You will need to provide some basic information about the building, including the building type, estimated simultaneous water usage, minimum required water pressure, pipe material, and water temperature. This ensures accurate calculations and system performance. Then CalHydra does the math to size all the pipes. You get the results of the calculation as a table that lists all the pipe sizes, and if you click on item, you see exactly where it is in the 3D model. The new pipe sizes can be sent back to MEP Designer. We have here the system browser still showing the original dimensions, potable water pipes. After we import from CalHydra, the model updates the pipe sizes based on the calculation results. This instant model update between CalHydra and MEP Designer saves time and keeps data accurate. Finally, we will use AX3000 for advanced analysis and the sizing of the ventilation systems. The AX3000 add-on lets you calculate ventilation systems modeled in MEP Designer and then visually review the results. Here we'll see how the add-on performs pressure loss calculations directly in MEP Designer. It shows you easy-to-read tables with the results, listing air pressure in each main and side duct. These results are essential for accurately calculating the hydraulic balancing. With easy line adjustments, it is possible to change materially on the duct system, and it also allows you to create parts list. First, we need to check if airspeed and pressure loss are within limits. Color coding makes it easy to spot issues and highlight where bigger ducts are needed. Here is another example for comparison with higher velocities in ventilation system. Pressure loss can also be clearly shown with similar color highlights. You can also see what happens if you only use round ducts. You can check other details like friction and how the air pressure drops along the ducts to make sure everything is sized right. Ultimately, the goal is to find the optimal system by using round and rectangular ducts and ensuring that velocities and pressure losses remain within the optimal range. After these calculations, you can create a full list of the parts you will need for the designed system.
All right. So let me share one more inside secret with you guys. I should have done this presentation live, but as there is no product manager or person that can have all the insights or understanding necessary to cover all these specialized solutions, there is no tool that can cover all the challenges of modern MEP projects as well. So with MEP Designer, it will be that the key here is that the combined effort of authoring, calculation, and simulation tools working hand in hand together, that will be the key to driving user efficiency. So, yeah, and MEP Designer will do this all from one single platform.
Yeah, but so far we have talked about M and P, mechanical and plumbing, but there is an E in the equation. So let's talk about electrical design. The good news is that we have a dedicated solution for that for many years. It's called DDS-CAD. And as you would imagine, DDS-CAD also became more powerful, more efficient with the latest update in 2025. I don't want to go to each and every detail, so just a few product highlights on the slide. I would like to mention a few of these. For example, way better 3D models for wall-mounted and surface-mounted plugs and sockets. Security cameras supported much better, better support for Norwegian and German requirements, cable tray loads, and there's many, many more. I think there's one aspect that I have to mention, and this is two letters, A and I, artificial intelligence. So there's many talks about this. Today we have heard about the announcement about our AI assistant, the solution from Graphisoft. AI assistant, the good news is it will be applied for DDS-CAD as well. Initially, it is focusing on better product knowledge, access to product information faster and easier. And with this, we have really came to the end of this very long and very informative coordination section of our presentation. I think the ultimate message here is that we are not working on individual products. We are building an ecosystem. We are building a platform. And with you guys, we are making it better to support even the more complex workflows.
We talked a lot about collaboration challenges. Well, I know. But let me just for a moment jump on that track, because I have a slightly different approach, a more workflow-driven approach. In my opinion, one of the key factors is catching issues as early as possible. And that's why native tools like clash detection, issue management, or graphic overrides and schedules are so important, because they can enhance data quality by automatically identifying and resolving issues between model elements. And for visual type of issue representation, we have graphic overrides. And graphic overrides represent the issues with distinctive colors, so you can easily spot them. And these issues can be wrong attribute allocation, or element clashes, or missing project data, project info, and so on. But besides this method, you can still use element schedules to see these issues in a list view. So it's up to you which one you prefer. And our native clash detection is linked to our issue management, meaning any colliding element can be first easily detected, and then second, assigned to a relevant team member for solution. And one more thing, because we have a nice workflow with Solibri Checkpoint and Archicad. So you can run real-time model verification. And this is quite simple, so let me briefly explain it. So you can export your model from Archicad in IFC format, then import it to Solibri Checkpoint, and then run different types of checks on them, such as clash detection, property checks, and free space checks. By the way, this is a browser-based solution, so it's quick and easy to access. But back to the workflow. So after you finish your checks, you can export the results and bring them back into Archicad as native issues. So at the end, you know, it's a complete circle, I would say.
Okay, so it was a very informative session. Thank you for bearing with us. Before we go, I'd like to get everyone's one final opinion, and I'd like to ask you how these innovations come together for you guys.
I guess I can start, and I would like to just tie this back all the way from the beginning of my speech, where we were talking about the customer-centric approach, and say that for me, I see this whole approach as really having the customer as our driving force and the feedback as our driving force. So every feature that we create, we modify, or we retire is based on real users tackling real-world scenarios.
Yeah, and I can jump in because I completely agree with Jasmine here that customer feedback is our driving force, but still my responsibility as a product manager is to always question what the users really, really need. And we all know the saying, that car analogy, that if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So I think constantly advancing and adopting new technology is what really lets us keep pace with the future, and also collaboration within the company and with external partners as well is what really allows our users, you guys, to enjoy our wonderful ecosystem.
Okay, so what do we all want at the end of the day, right? There are many design professionals here, and obviously we want to deliver our projects on time and on budget. But I still want to believe that after many decades of practice, there is one more thing, again, one more thing. You want to enjoy what you do, right? You want to enjoy architecture, you want to stay creative, and for that, what you really need is the best design experience, and this is exactly what Graphisoft is committed to deliver for you guys. So, thank you.
Yeah, I really like this one. Because I think it's about making the creative design process of our users more accessible, more prominent, because that's the best part, right?
Yeah.
And I think that our learning tools and even the entire interface can keep you productive and, well, get the things done. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. So together, we're building a stronger, more connected future. So excited things are coming. Please try our products. Keep sharing your thoughts and be part of what's coming next. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.